How do you do? I'm Dustaroo, and I want to talk to you about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Again, as it should be obvious by now, I've been playing a lot of the game, and in my previous video I talked about some quality of life and some small balance changes to make the game overall more fun and more fair. But we need to talk about the issue I think is causing the most amount of damage to the game overall. No, this is not about the crashes and server issues, or the hackers, or the invisible victims. Those are causing critical damage too, but those are issues that everyone universally can agree should be fixed. Even the hackers themselves are probably not going to come out and say, maybe we should cool it with this hating hackers thing. And if they do, my god, they must be truly lost. Those massive issues are not hitting the player base in the soft bits with no obvious solution in sight, quite like the Leatherface issue. That issue being every match needs one, and it seems that most people just don't really want to play him anymore.
Oh, Miss Clifton, over here. Oh, Miss Clifton, 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 Miss Clifton.
Mrs. Griffin.
No.
From the early game bullying you can be subjected to, the endless and deafening swarm of wasps in your ears, to the fun loop of being solely responsible for hitting your button and sitting in a several second animation over and over and over, so your team can have a chance to actually chase a victim. There's probably more issues about Bubba that is causing people not to want to play him. My big issue is I just want to play other characters. I don't mind Bubba, but I would like to level up other characters and actually play something else when it comes to family. If I don't play Bubba, I'm often stuck in long standoffs with my randos. Who's gonna break first and bite the Bubba bullet? After waiting in several 30-minute plus lobbies, it's become apparent that a lot of people are more stubborn than I am. You also know if you're going into a lobby with a duo, they are never picking Bubba. Ever. Then they scream and yell about how you need to switch to Bubba. So, I find myself just not wanting to touch family sometimes, and either switch to victim, and sometimes having to wait in another standoff lobby that now I have no control of. It just makes me want to go play something else. And I know I'm not the only one feeling this. People who group as family are probably blind to this as they never have to deal with it, but us solo players and casual players are stuck in the trenches developing trench foot, just waiting for something to happen. All for it to just be a rush squad who get out in 2 minutes because your team isn't properly coordinated? It's a recipe for people going, I'm just gonna play something else. And that's not what we want if we want Texas Chainsaw Massacre to be successful for the future. You can say get good or play better all you want, but the longer this goes on, the more and more people will be driven away from this game for good. And when those people leave, there will be hardly anyone playing with you, and those extra long wait times will make you stop playing as well. This is one of the reasons Texas Chainsaw Massacre is in a decline. And I suspect one of the biggest reasons outside of the usual people just getting bored and wanting to move on. So, what do? How do we solve this fundamental roadblock, as Leatherface is actually a crucial part of the family roster, and the game without him is basically unplayable? Well, we have to make some big changes on how players interact with the match. Not so crazy big that it changes the overall gameplay loop, but just enough so we can make it that Bubba is not needed for a match to start. So, how do we play a match of Texas Chainsaw Massacre without Leatherface at all? First thing we have to discuss though, Bubba Barriers. Bubba tables? Bubba benches? Okay, what the hell are these even supposed to be, and why are they all over the house? Never mind, just some things just don't have answers. So these barriers cut off pathways for the family specifically, as no family member can cross them, and when, and only when, they are destroyed, does it allow the family to move around freely at that specific location. A lot of times these are positioned in a way that, if not destroyed, it makes it impossible for a family to even get a hit, let alone kill a victim. There's even some locations where 2 family members can't even get a kill because of these barriers. And if they do, it can come at a great cost. Well, the obvious answer probably would be just to remove them entirely. I don't think this is the right idea. They're a good way of slowing down the pace of the family so they just can't rush down one victim and get them out of the match immediately. It forces the family team to spend time on resources and not be camped out in one of the 4 objectives. They are needed to push the family to sacrifice objective pressure to be able to chase and kill some victims. I think the barriers in some form should be in the game, but that's the key, in some form. In matches where Bubba is not present, they need to be replaced. Or just replaced in general with barriers that are more flimsy and easier for a person without a chainsaw to break down. Like maybe it could be a bunch of 2x4s nailed together with a somewhat flat surface on top, so they can still function the same as Bubba barriers, but it's not unreasonable to think that a person could kick them down. With these changes, we would also need a new mechanic to help this function, and to keep the balance of some family members from getting too strong overall. So, this new mechanic I'm proposing is called Physiques. There are 4 types of Physiques. We have the Feeble Physique. This would be characters who are old, disabled, malnourished. This would be support characters like Cook and Nancy. Characters with feeble physiques cannot break down barriers or crawl spaces. They can only close crawl spaces like the Cook does now. After that, we have the average physique. This would be characters like Hitchhiker and Sissy. Characters that are not very strong, but are capable to perform strenuous tasks when needed, but require a lot more effort to do so than the other family members. Average physique characters could break down barriers, but it would take twice as long as Bubba does. So Bubba takes around 7 seconds give or take to break a resource. It would take these characters with average physiques 14 seconds to break down a barrier. They can remove the resource, but at great cost to their time, leaving them vulnerable. Doing so would also not lock them into an animation, as they must hold E or X or whatever the binding is for your preferred platform. They must hold that button down the entire duration and can stop at any time, but it will reset the progress on the break. Average physique characters cannot close or break crawl spaces, but can only crawl through them. Now we have the strong physique characters. As of now, this would only consist of Johnny. Strong physique characters can break both barriers and crawl spaces, give it a little slower than Bubba can. So let's say Bubba takes 7 seconds to break a resource. It would take a strong physique character 10 seconds to break a resource and can cancel the animation when they wish, resetting progress. Then we have the powerful physique. Characters with a powerful physique would just be Bubba, and maybe some more down the line. They can break crawl spaces and barriers in an animation they cannot cancel, and this takes around 7 seconds. So that's Physiques, which now gives several characters the ability to break resources, making it so requiring a Bubba is now optional rather than mandatory. I don't even think this would take much away from Bubba, as still being able to one-shot or two-shot victims and moving as fast as Bubba does while being able to break all these resources very quickly would still leave him in a very strong spot. I just think forcing a certain character to be played every match is having a big negative impact on the game, and it's only going to get worse as the game moves forward. It's just going to cause more gridlock down the line. With this, it also allows more experimentation with the type of family lineups we could see in a match, adding a little bit more variety to the overall game for both family and victim side. And I'm aware that this could throw some big imbalances into the game. But with ideas right, you have to get some testing, and you can make adjustments to the overall numbers. Maybe the animations need to be longer, maybe they need to be shorter, maybe you need to add more barriers in the map, or less. If something like this were to be added to the game, there would need to be overall balance changes to compensate. But I do think this is the right direction to head into. I mean, we could always just juice Bubba up even more, making him stronger, but that just seems like a very dangerous thing to do, and wouldn't even necessarily solve the issue of people not wanting to play him and lobbies being dragged out. It could also even result in people quitting lobbies to only play Bubba. And overall, I just think I would rather have more characters be able to perform tasks when needed, even if it is at a greater cost. Because there is always that time where your Bubba crashes or disconnects and you were left in a match with a victim who could just hold the game hostage until they bleed out, or you choose to disconnect. So, what do you think? Could this help the game out and make lobbies less of a time waste? Or do you think this just tosses game balance too far out of whack? Is Bubba being included in every match thematically too important to the game, that the sacrifice of making him an optional character is just too much to ask? I'm curious to see what you all think, because I do think this is a great idea on how to remove some of the more frustrating aspects of the game. But I could be drunk on delusion of actually having a thought of being able to consistently play other characters besides Bubba. So I'm probably not thinking clearly. Help me see the light. Remember to like and subscribe for more Dead by Daylight and Texas Chainsaw content. So thank you all for watching. I'm Dustaroo, and I will see you all real soon. Bye-bye.